please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Melanie Inglessis.
And Ms. Inglessis,
Whoops, it's me first.
I'm a makeup artist.
And you, in fact, are a professional makeup artist, correct?
Correct.
When did you first meet Amber Heard?
April 2015.
And what was the occasion?
Tribeca Film Festival in New York.
And were you providing makeup services for her on that occasion?
Correct.
Okay. And did you become friends with Amber Heard after that?
I did.
Ms. Inglessis, I'm going to show you what has been marked as exhibit number 7. Do you recognize what's depicted in this photograph?
Yes. I recall seeing this on the kitchen of the penthouse. When you enter, they have a bar kitchenette to the left, and that was there. Yes.
But when you came to the penthouse after Amber had texted you, whether it was that night or the next day, you saw this in the kitchen, is that correct, painted?
And lack of foundation.
And so you do recall being there that evening?
I do recall being there. You know, my only concern with all of this is that was it the day before or during another incident. But it says, if my text said I was there the night before, then I was there the night before.
Ms. Inglessis, I'm going to ask you to look at what has been marked as deposition exhibit number 9. Do you recognize what is depicted in this photo?
Well, it's a bed. It looks like, I mean, it's a very tight picture of the bed, but it's a bed.
And do you recall seeing this the night of December 15 with the broken part of the bed?
Upstairs, yes.
Okay. And when you say upstairs, what do you mean?
Well, her bed, the bedroom was upstairs.
And the downstairs had the kitchen with the writing. Do you remember where the other property that you saw was? Was that downstairs or upstairs? The property that was damaged. Was that upstairs or downstairs?
Downstairs.
All right, and just so I'm clear, you recall damage to the bed, is that correct?
And asked and answered.
On December 16, 2015, did you return to Amber Heard's penthouse?
Yes.
And why did you come to Amber Heard's penthouse on December 16?
It was the James Corden show. She had an appearance, so I came back to work.
And when you arrived at the penthouse on December 16, please describe for me what you observed about Amber Heard's face and any injuries.
When I came to the penthouse on December 16 to do Amber's makeup, she had injuries. She had two light, like, I don't know how, I don't know, I mean, I'm not a medical expert, I don't know how I would describe them, but it could have looked like somebody had headbutted her lightly, so she had a discoloration here, under both eyes, and on the bridge of the nose. And she had what I would call a split lip or something on the lip, like a gash or a split lip.
Ms. Inglessis, I'm going to ask you to look at what has been marked as exhibit number 11. Do you recognize this photo as being Amber Heard's head?
Yes.
Okay. And could you please describe for me what this photo is showing?
It's showing a chunk of missing hair.
And what, if anything, did you observe on December 16 about Amber Heard missing a chunk of hair?
I remember this because she showed it to us, and I looked at it.
Okay. And can you describe what is depicted right along her scalp there?
I don't know.
Do you recall that there was some bruising along the scalp and some pus, for lack of a better word?
I don't recall.
Ms. Inglessis, I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as exhibit number 14. Do you recognize the person in this photo?
Yes.
And who is that?
This is Amber Heard.
Okay. And were you just described what you saw on the 16th with respect to Amber Heard's injuries. Does this accurately depict what you saw on Amber Heard on December 16, 2015?
Yes.
Ms. Iglesias, I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as Exhibit 16. Again, do you recognize the person in this photo?
Yes.
And who is that?
Amber Heard.
Okay. And does this picture reflect the injuries that you saw on Amber Heard on December 16, 2015?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm going to ask you to take a look at one more of those, and that is Exhibit 17. And I'm going to ask again, Ms. Iglesias, do you recognize the person in this picture? And maybe to try to move it along, is it Amber Heard?
Yes.
Okay. And does this reflect what you saw as well on December 16, 2015?
I mean, that's three pictures with very different light, but yes.
Now, do you also recall there being an injury to Amber Heard's lip?
Correct.
And Ms. Iglesias, I'm going to ask you to take a look at exhibit number 19, and do you recognize the person in this photograph as Amber Heard?
Yes.
And does this picture accurately reflect what you saw on Amber Heard on December 16, 2015?
Yes.
Ms. Iglesias, could you please describe what you did by way of makeup to prepare Amber Heard for the James Corden show on December 16, 2015?
Yes. We covered, I just did makeup, but just a little heavier where it needed. So we covered, the discoloration, the bruises with a little slightly heavier concealer. One that has a little more of a peach undertone, which I would normally don't use on Amber, but peach do cancel blue. So I did that under the eyes. And although Amber always, has a red lip, is one of the signature look, I remember clearly talking that we had no other option that night but then to use a red blood, like a really red lipstick to, make sure we could cover up the injuries on the lip.
And were you able to cover all of the injuries with the makeup that you applied and as you just described?
Yes.
Ms. Iglesias, if you could look at what has been marked as exhibit number 22, do you recognize Amber Heard in that picture?
Yes.
Okay. And is this the picture of her, is this a picture of her that evening, December 16, 2015 on the James Corden show?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you observe on the difference in Amber Heard's demeanor before the show and then on the show?
That she had the ability to, turn it on, that she, the ability to do her job and perform how she was supposed to perform on the show.
And prior to Amber going on the show and while you were working with her on her makeup, how would you describe Amber's mood and demeanor? Angry,
Sad, a little erratic, I think through waves of emotions,
Do you recall someone named Ms. McMillan having any role in helping to prepare Amber Heard for that James Corden show that night, December 16?
Yes.
What do you recall?
Samantha was a stylist. Samantha was there the day of the James Corden show, as she was always there to get her ready before an appearance or a show.
And did Samantha work on Amber before or after you were applying the makeup?
I don't know if she worked on Amber, but when I entered the Penthouse 5, Samantha was there with Amber. So Samantha was there before I entered the penthouse.
And Do you recall whether Samantha was hugging Amber when you came in?
I recall opening the penthouse. So there's two penthouses. There's the penthouse where she gets ready. So Amber at the penthouse where Samantha gets her ready, where all Amber's clothes is. If I recall properly, that's the penthouse that I enter first, just to say hi before I would go set up in the other penthouse. And my recollection is when I enter, Amber was crying, looked pretty upset on Samantha's shoulder, or they were like, I don't know if hugging is the right way, but they would definitely had a moment where they were together, and Amber looked really upset.
Ms. Inglessis, I'm going to ask you just a couple more questions about the makeup that you applied on Amber on December 16, 2015 for the James Corden show. I think you said that you had applied some concealer and that you had some peach undertones with it to cancel out some blue. Did I hear that correctly? Yes. I was asking about, I wrote down that you said that you had applied on Amber concealer, you had some peach undertones to cancel blue. Is that what you said?
Correct.
So what type of concealer did you apply to Amber? And if you use different color tones, can you please describe why you used the color tones you did?
I used a different kind of concealer that I would normally use on Amber, which I used a concealer that had peach undertone. Peach undertone concealer are more effective to cover any darkness of blue undertone than a normal concealer.
Do you know what type of makeup Amber Heard typically wore?
Objection,
Yes.
Dagan.
Can you please describe for me?
Yes, she's pretty natural. She has a concealer from a company called, she used to have a concealer from a company called Clé de Peau. Her makeup would be pretty simple, concealer and a little benefit tint that she used on her lips and she used on her cheeks. Very natural.
It had a natural look to it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But she did wear concealer and what you described, correct?
Do you mean in her daily life or that night?
In her daily life.
Yes, she has a concealer that she uses all the time, and she has a couple of products that she uses all the time, daily, yes. Well, I mean daily, yes, as far as I know.
And do you feel confident in what you described that you saw that day of Amber Heard's injuries? And I'm talking about December 16, 2015.
1,000%, without a doubt. Because I just don't remember, it's 5 years ago, I don't remember the exact date.
And could you describe Amber Heard's demeanor in those days before and after the filing for divorce and for the domestic violence restraining order?
An area of different emotion, definitely from sadness to not wanting to divorce to anger to being really upset to being really sad. So it was just a roller coaster of emotion that I think we were all there those couple of days to help navigate and go through it.
I take it from your response today, you still feel very emotional about this. It's very difficult for you, isn't it?
It's not difficult for me, no, but it just reminded me at the time how I felt, yes.
When did you first tell Ms. Heard that you were no longer interested in having her as a client and being friends with her?
That phone call, about a month ago.
How was it said?
Well, I just told Amber that, I wish her well and I just have no interest in continuing a relationship, whatever it's work-wise or friendship-wise.
But is there a specific reason other than the birth of your child and the postpartum issues that you described, both as client and Ms. Inglessis? What was your impression of Mr. Depp when you first met him?
Lovely.
You thought he was lovely?
Yeah.
Was each of the, well, let me ask the backup question. Did you interact with Mr. Depp? How many times did you interact with Mr. Depp?
Through, you mean all in all?
Oh, yes, the entirety of your interactions. How many were there, approximately?
5, maybe less than 10. Maybe, yeah.
And would you describe all your interactions with Mr. Depp as, quote, lovely?
Yes.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp act in a violent manner?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp yell at Ms. Heard?
No.
Did you ever see him kick Ms. Heard?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp throw an object at Ms. Heard?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp slap Ms. Heard?
No.
Punch her?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp kick Ms. Heard?
No.
Is it fair to say, Ms. Inglessis, that you never saw Mr. Depp be physically abusive towards Ms. Heard?
Correct.
And you never saw Mr. Depp cause any injuries to Ms. Heard, correct?
Did I ever saw him causing any injuries? No.
And so any injuries that you claim to have seen on Ms. Heard, you don't know one way or another how they were caused, correct?
Correct.
The only source of information that you have is Ms. Heard's own words, correct?
Correct.
Did you hear Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard having a fight on the phone?
I was there. I was present in the room.
But just to confirm, could you hear Mr. Depp's voice?
No.
So fair to say that the only voice you heard was Ms. Heard's, correct?
Correct.
And so you don't know what Mr. Depp said to Ms. Heard on that phone call, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall any other occasions where you witnessed a fight between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, or heard about an incident or a fight between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, other than the 3 that we've now discussed?
I would say every time. I would say that during my friendship with Amber, before she filed for divorce, which, I mean, timeline, I don't know, a year, maybe a year and a half, it was always some conflict, some fight, some physical fights, some verbal fights, some kind of problem, some kind of, it's always was a problem, a problematic. It was very consuming for me. It was all consuming about that relationship. It was a very consuming friendship, and hence that's why I decided not to continue it.
But you yourself, Ms. Inglessis, didn't witness any of these altercations, fights, arguments, correct, between Mr. Depp? I think you testified that you interacted with Mr. Depp less than 10 times. When you did interact with Mr. Depp, was Ms. Heard present each of those times?
All of those times.
Did you find him particularly loving towards Ms. Heard?
No, not particularly, no.
And during these interactions with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, at that time, you were aware that Mr. Depp allegedly was abusing Ms. Heard, correct?
Well, most of the interaction that I had was towards the end of 2015, right? I'm assuming, so I was not fully aware yet of, I guess, the
their fight, if I can say so. I think, you know, most of the time I saw them together was towards the end of December, before December 15. So Thanksgiving, that time, and Amber's, I think, birthday, I'm getting it to do that. So the few times that I saw Mr. Depp was before I understood the seriousness of the fight.
Understanding, again, came from Miss Heard only, correct?
Well, Miss Heard and some of her friends, yes.
Who were some of her friends?
Rocky, Retro Pennington, Ayo, Twillett, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Josh, Drew, the people that were leaving, her sister, Whitney. Those were the core group.
You said you spent Thanksgiving with Mr. Depp and Miss Heard. Was that in Thanksgiving, November 2015?
Yes, correct, because they were divorced by May 2016, so yes.
How would you describe that evening?
Awkward,
Why?
because Marilyn Manson was there?
Did you know Marilyn Manson?
No, but it just was an awkward Thanksgiving sitting there. It was quite intimate. So sitting, yeah, it was just awkward. He's just an awkward being, and it's just awkward to be around. So it was an awkward evening.
Do you recall Mr. Depp and Miss Heard having any type of disagreement or fight that evening?
Disagreement, maybe, like a disagreement.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there was, you know, it was such a small, intimate surrounding that you pick up on things, and so I could tell that it was awkward. It was just awkward. I think Mr. Depp and Mr. Manson disappeared for a while. Then everybody was at the table, so they was wondering where they were. It was just awkward.
And you're pretty sure they had a fight because Miss Heard told you after the fact that they had a fight, correct? Because you did not witness Mr. Depp or Miss Heard having any type of fight the evening of Thanksgiving, correct?
Correct.
Ms. Inglessis, do you have an independent recollection of going to the penthouse in downtown Los Angeles on December 15th, 2015?
I have an independent recollection of going to the penthouse before one of the incident, and at the time I couldn't recall if it was the day before the James Corden or the day before the fun incident, you know. So and that is what I made sure I needed to remember, that it was the day before December 16th. Where, yes. Does that make sense? So I knew I had come a day before, a day before one of the two biggest fights that, you know, and I wasn't sure if it was that day or that day, but it was December 15th.
And sitting here today, you're still not sure if you went to the penthouse on December 15th, 2015, or if it was the day before the May incident in 2016. And when you went to the penthouse on December 15th, I believe you testified before that you didn't see any injuries on Amber Heard that evening, correct?
Sorry, I don't recall seeing any injuries on Amber that night.
Do you recall if Ms. Pennington was at the penthouse that evening?
Yes.
Do you recall if anybody else was at the penthouse that evening?
I don't recall.
But you do remember Ms. Heard being there and Ms. Pennington, correct?
Correct.
All right. Did you take any photographs of Ms. Heard the evening of December 15, 2016?
No.
Do you recall being present when any photographs of Ms. Heard were taken on December 15, 2015?
I don't recall.
Do you remember being present when photographs of Ms. Heard's injuries were taken on December 16th, 2015?
No.
And did you take any pictures of Ms. Heard and her injuries on December 16th, 2015?
No.
So I don't want to take up the time of showing you all the photographs Ms. Bredehoff showed you earlier today, but there were a number of exhibits. I think I marked them as exhibits 14 through 20 that you were shown earlier this morning. Just to confirm, you didn't take any of those photographs, correct?
Not on my phone, not with my phone, and I do not recall taking Amber's or Rocky's phone to take those pictures. No, definitely not with my phone. I do not recall taking physically myself those pictures. No, I don't recall.
Would it be normal for Ms. Heard to have makeup on her face before you arrived to do her makeup ahead of an appearance?
It would be normal for Amber to have concealer on, a little of that tint there, yes, because it is quite normal for Amber to wash her face. She always likes to wash the face before the makeup with the product that she likes, do a toner, you know, so it wouldn't be abnormal for her to have a little makeup before and then wash her face and start clean.
But you don't remember one way or another whether Ms. Heard had a fresh face with toner and moisturizer on before when you arrived on December 16th, 2015, correct?
No, I do not. I don't recall.
Would she usually wash her face and go through that process in front of you?
Yes, I mean in front of me in her bathroom, but you know we were close, so it wouldn't be abnormal for me to be chit-chatting with her while she cleaned her face. And you know, I don't think specifically in front of me or not in front of me, but yeah, I mean she would wash her face in the bathroom, which is adjacent to where we get her ready.
And I want to be really specific. So based on your best recollection, what injuries did you see on Ms. Heard on December 16th, 2015?
Amber had a slight discoloration on both eyes and on the top of the bridge of the nose, and hold on, and I do believe the right eye had a little more of a gash right there. It wasn't that strong, it wasn't that swollen, but it was definitely some blue and yellow discoloration there, mainly on the inner corner and a little more here. And then she had on the right lip, as I said earlier, I'm not sure the exact medical term, but it looked like a split lip or like a gash here.
Did you ever see Ms. Heard's lip bleed on December 15th or December 16th?
I don't recall.
But you have you remember that it was not bleeding on December 16th when you were applying the makeup, correct?
When I was applying the makeup, correct.
How about before you were applying the makeup? Do you recall it bleeding?
I don't recall.
And I think you just described it as either a gash or a split lip.
I don't know what would be the medical term for it. I don't know what kind of injury would have caused this. I'm not a medical expert, nor forensic expert, but it was slightly swollen. And by the way, you can see it in that video. So it's crazy to me, but it was slightly swollen. And there was either a gash or a scab, no, not a scab, but it was swollen with some kind of cut.
Do you recall Ms. Heard ever having a cold sore on her lips?
No.
You said there was slight discoloration under both eyes. Was there swelling under both eyes as well?
Like a bruise. Maybe there was a little tiny swelling on one of the eye that was a little more a little more injured than the other, but not huge swelling, no.
I believe your testimony earlier today was that he lightly headbutted her. Is that correct?
I wasn't there. I don't know if he lightly or not lightly headbutted her.
That was your testimony, that it appeared as if she had been, quote, lightly headbutted. Do you remember saying that earlier today?
And maybe I was misquoted. It's not my position to say how headbutted she was or anything. And maybe I'm misquoted.
Okay. And did she show you the hair that was missing?
She showed us, me and the hairdresser, the hole where the hair was missing on top of the head.
And was Miss McMillan there as well?
No, Samantha McNair was really never when we get ready. So it was two separate things, and Samantha never really comes up when we get ready, no.
But just to confirm, these injuries, right, that you saw on Ms. Heard on December 16th, 2015, you don't know how they were caused, correct?
Correct.
And so any information you have about how the cause of these injuries came from Ms. Heard only?
From December 16, correct.
Well, any injuries other than Ms. Heard and her friends, you never witnessed Mr. Depp being violent or abusive towards Ms. Heard and causing any injuries?
Correct.
So let's talk about the makeup that you actually used to conceal these injuries on her face on December 16th. I believe you testified you used a concealer with a peach undertone.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have training and experience dealing with injuries or covering up bruising on people? Do you have any specific experience or education?
Specific experience, I have experience in doing bruises and cover bruises for special effect. Yeah, I mean, throughout my career, I have created bruises, and I also have covered bruises for, you know, with models or real life things, whatever it is. So yeah, I have experience in covering some bruises, yes.
How about swelling? Same question.
I mean, it's a little harder to cover swelling. That would be maybe, you know, try to bring the swelling down. Covering it up would be would be harder.
And how about cuts?
Yeah.
Specifically as it relates to Ms. Heard's makeup look on December 16th, do you recall what foundation you used?
The brand?
You probably don't remember the brand, but do you recall the shade that you used?
How would I? No, it's 5 years ago. Absolutely not.
Do you recall?
No.
But you do have a specific recollection of using a peach undertone concealer.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because Amber always had in her bag, we have the same concealer. She has a concealer from a brand called Clear the Pool. And it's a specific shade, you know, it's beige. Beige was Amber's color for under her eyes, period. So the day, December 16, I didn't use beige. I used, there's another concealer that has a little more peach in there and orange. It's called Honey, from the same family, and I used that instead. And I think I also I have a wheel that is a bruise wheel that has different colors, and you pick up the color to gently touch up any darkness.
Did you make a different choice for her overall look other than the concealer as a result of the injuries that you saw on her face on December 16th?
Not a different choice, but I remember we specifically, you know, as I know you read it before, we had a red lip. It was not uncommon for her. We know she has a signature red lip, so it's not suddenly it was, oh my gosh, she has a red lip. But I remember that day I specifically structure my makeup. There's a couple of things we do with Amber. We do a smoky eye and a nude lip or a red lip, and I remember specifically thinking of my makeup about we needed to highlight there to try to not draw attention there, and the red lips was our only option to cover that red cut that was there. So that I remember very specifically thinking that we had to have a red lip, sharp brows, and construct the makeup to take away from here. So basically, I mean, it's not doesn't mean nothing to you guys, but just basically a lot of highlight up here to kind of not focus on this. I remember talking about it very clearly.
And forgive my ignorance, but what did you do to cover up the cut on the lip other than apply a red lip?
A red lip. A red lip. It is swollen. I can see it in the video on the James Corden show. So lips was swollen. It was big on that side. You can see it. There's nothing I can do about that. But we did a really dark red lip to match that red gash or cut, whatever that was there.
Do you recall Ms. Heard being hindered as a result of the injury on her lip? And when I say hindered, I mean, did she have trouble opening her mouth widely, or, you know, did she complain about it hurting or splitting open and bleeding? Do you recall any of that?
I don't recall.
And again, just to confirm, on December 15th, 2015, you don't recall seeing any injuries, including a split lip, on Amber Heard, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall having any specific conversation with the hairstylist that was doing Ms. Heard's hair on December 16th, 2015, as it related to the abuse that Ms. Heard was describing for you?
Yeah, yes. We talked a bit about it, yes.
And what do you recall about that conversation?
I mean, you know, I think everybody was a little like, whoa, shit, okay. I think everybody was a little surprised. Everybody was a little like not knowing how to move forward with it. I mean, but we talked, as I said, when Amber was in the chair and Adele was behind her and I was in front of her, I recall the three of us having this conversation, and I recall Adele showing me the hole there.
But just to confirm, you don't know how that chunk of hair was missing from Ms. Heard's head. You don't know what caused that chunk of hair to be missing, correct?
I don't know it, correct.
You don't have any personal knowledge, I should say, as to how that chunk of hair came to be missing from her head.
Well, I did not witness it, correct.
Alex, may I please have you bring up Dep 9? Ms. Inglessis, you've testified previously that you see, watching the video clip, right, you see Ms. Heard's, you see the swollen lip and you see bruising.
Yeah. I see, I've known that face. I know that face so well. I've done it so many times. I can tell where the bruises are, and I can tell where the swollen lip is, correct.
So, Ms. Inglessis, do you mind please identifying for me, is this, does this photograph accurately depict Ms. Heard on the James Corden show on December 16th, 2015?
Yes.
But can you describe for me where you see bruising on Ms. Heard's face?
Well, I didn't say I saw bruise, but I saw the discoloration. I can see my makeup. So I see the discoloration on the right eye, just right under. I see that little dent there. And also, I mean, this is a picture that is, you know, this is not a really accurate picture. She's sideways. The light is one way, you know, but yes, there's better pictures that you can see. But if you give me the mouth, I will show you. But there's other still picture when you can see the split lip better, or the swollen lip. So I mean, I can see there's better pictures where you can see that side of her lip is swollen. This here.
And when you're pointing, just for the record, you're pointing to the right side of Ms. Heard's lip, correct?
Correct. It's here. Nothing. But as I said, there's better pictures. She's sideways. There's better pictures where you can see what I feel you can see better. But
It might be the same photograph.
yeah, she's still sideways.
But Ms. Iglesias, this is your testimony that you believe you can see swelling on the right side of Ms. Heard's lip.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see any bruising or concealed bruising under her eyes?
Well, I mean, I know I've concealed those bruises, so yeah, so I can see them because I know I did it, but so that's neither here or there. But yeah, I mean, I can see them just under her eyes, under her right eyes. I can see the little gash right there. And I can, all that darkness, right? I mean, I don't have the mask anymore, but all that darkness right there, that is not eyeshadow. And that is neither dark circle for not sleeping. This is part of the little, you know, the injury is showing through.
Do you see any discoloration or bruising on the bridge of her nose?
I do not. No, I must have done a great job there.
Do you recall anything about Ms. Heard's appearance when you first encountered her in Coachella Valley?
No, I don't recall.
Did you notice any injuries on Ms. Heard?
I don't recall.
Do you recall Ms. Heard discussing any abuse that she had sustained the night of her birthday on April 21st, 2016 by Mr. Depp?
Yes.
What do you recall about that?
I recall there was a fight, there was I don't remember. I don't exactly recall the fight. I know there was a fight and there was some problem. That's why they were late coming back to Coachella's. I don't recall exactly what she told me, but there was some problem the night before, yes.
But you don't remember seeing any injuries on Ms. Heard after her birthday dinner in April of 2016, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall seeing any injuries on Ms. Heard's face at that dinner on May 24th, 2016?
I don't recall.
Do you recall Ms. Heard's general demeanor at the dinner on May 24th, 2016?
What I remember about that dinner is that she was, and I'll tell you why I remember this clearly, because she was very distraught and she was very confused if she should file or not for divorce. And she was really sad and upset and angry and all of it. And I remember that because that night I actually physically took her phone. So she should not, so that if Johnny tried to reach out to her again, she wouldn't have a phone that night, and she would go through the divorce tomorrow, the next day. So I remember physically having her phone, and when I dropped them back at the penthouse, she said, "Keep my phone, so if you contact me, I won't know, I won't cave, and I will file for divorce tomorrow." So I went home in my house with her phone, and that's why I remember. That's why it's sticking in my mind. And then the next morning, and you can see in those texts, she said, "I need my phone." And then I had to drive to the penthouse and give her her phone back. And at the time, that day, I'm assuming she filed for divorce, and that day the whole circus started.
And you believe that Ms. Heard should go through with the divorce, correct?
Correct.
And that was based on what exactly, Ms. Inglessis?
On what she told me on her recollection of her marriage.
I think you testified earlier that Amber's practice was to wear concealer, some foundation, moisturizer, things of that nature. Do you have any recollection that Amber strayed from that and did not wear makeup during the week of May 21st, 2016?
No.
Do you have any recollection that week of thinking, "Oh my goodness, Amber Heard isn't wearing her makeup this week"?
No.
So, do you know whether Amber Heard took any steps to reduce her swelling during this, in preparation for the James Corden show?
Yes, she took arnica, and we had an arnica gel. I always have arnica gel in my kit anyway, and she had arnica gel. She used arnica gel and some ice.
And what does arnica gel do with respect to swelling?
I use arnica gel in my kit to bring any swelling area of my client's face down.
And how does that typically work? What's your experience?
It just brings the swelling down. I mean, not drastically, but it helps with the swelling a little bit.